Imagine that. Bazinga. Wow, it still didn't make you laugh. Oh, it did. Wow. Wow, you got a monkey brain if you laughed at that.
No, I laughed because I've never heard you say that word before in my life, and it caught me off guard.
That was the test of our friendship, actually. I was gonna say if Cameron laughs, it's over. Because I don't that's not even a good joke.
It's not a good joke, but I was more confused than anything. So
all right, well, I guess we should just start the show at that point. I'm sure you don't want that included, but I'm really considering leaving it in.
I think that's fine with me, honestly. I mean, we'll hear you clapping, but whatever. I don't care.
I am an editor. I can fix anything.
Hello and welcome to Cinema Spectator, a show where an expert and a casual movie fan watch movies in the cinematic canon. Today's film is Witness for the Prosecution, directed by Billy Wilder, starring Charles Lofton, Tyrone Powers, and Marlene Dietrich. Isaac, you're really excited to talk about this movie, and so am I. So I am ready for it. But first and foremost, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very good. I'm pleasantly surprised with this film, Cameron. Give a little context because we got movies like switched up.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a little I was considering like 3 different movies for this week. We shuffled around like where this week was supposed to be in the order. And so that meant I was like, okay, I want to do like a mid-50s Wilder movie, either early 50s or mid-50s. Typically, if we hadn't done it already, this would have been Sunset Boulevard. That's what I would have done. But, we already did Sunset Boulevard and whatever. It doesn't matter. So instead of instead of what we were going to do this week, which was Some Like It Hot, which we'll do next week, we decided to do one of these films, and it was a toss up between these 3 movies. And Witness for the Prosecution was one of them, but so was Ace in the Hole, and Ace in the Hole was the one that I had decided on in my mind, but I had texted Isaac Witness for the Prosecution, and it was totally my mistake. I messed up, but I said, Isaac, watch Witness for the Prosecution, and in my mind, I told him Ace in the Hole, and so I watched Ace in the Hole yesterday, and then we got together, and I realized, wow, I think I told him the wrong movie. I did not mean that. And as it turns out, Isaac really loved it. So, serendipitous, I guess.
Yeah, it was a moment in God's control, let me just say, because this movie, like, I have no idea what it is. I bet you most people that listen to the show have never heard of this film. Like,
I'm sure they have.
Maybe like those who are very into the film lore, right? Like I'm the casual on this show, so it's like I don't know too much about it, but I was shocked and I was like, Cameron, we're not doing Ace in the Hole, we're doing this film. And you hadn't seen it either, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how much context we're gonna have. I don't know how much research you put into it because you are the expert of the show and all that, but
yeah, I have a bit. I mean, the really one thing to note about this movie is it's based on an Agatha Christie short story. So, Agatha Christie is a well-known mystery, murder mystery novelist. She wrote many, many things in her career that have been turned into movies. For example, Murder on the Orient Express. And this movie was the first movie that was based on one of her stories that she actually liked. So that's, to give you some context on like how faithful it was to the original short story. I'm not sure if it was faithful altogether, but it definitely was one that she approved of, let's say.
Yeah. Well, I know we're diving straight into it, which is not normal. But Cameron, I've been out of town this week. We've been flipping movies. Our schedule's been whack and we're not watching the same things. I want to get into it, but how have you been doing?
Pretty good. It's been, like you said, kind of a weird week. It's been a little hectic, but that's all good. We had 3 different recording dates this week.
Yeah,
and
it's on me. It's
no, it's not. It's not even because it was just busy. It was a busy, weird week. Other than that, I haven't really been watching much. I've been playing a lot of Control, actually. That's what I've been doing most nights. So I'm kind of doing it meticulously. I'm going, getting all the little collectibles and like reading through all the things. I like the atmosphere. It really reminds me of, you know, I don't know. It's got like Unsolved Mysteries vibes. It's got, it just has an interesting atmosphere, I would say. So if anybody has not played Control yet, go and play Control. I hear it's been unstable for some people, like not running well, but for me, it's been running great. So
what are you playing it on?
On PS5.
See, you just derailed the conversation, Cameron, because we're supposed to be talking about movies. But I do think Control has an ounce of like cinema touch. I played
Totally
the intro, and it feels like I guess if you're looking from a more modern, casual perspective, like the corporate building, federal building, and like Stranger Things. Like imagine if like this whole psycho journey goes down in there, and it's very. I found it super engaging. I loved my short time with it, but I played it on the old consoles where it was like garbage frame rate. So
yeah, not running well. Yeah, it plays 50 or 60 frames per second on PS5, so I've been having a good time.
I hate you, dude. I can't believe you got one. I can't even. I'm like I've almost given up completely on trying to acquire one at this point. So.
It's getting more and more available, I would say, but still not widely. But
yeah. Well, lucky you. Lucky you. I have not been watching much, but I did watch Ratatouille the other night.
Movie.
It is a very weird film because, rats in the kitchen, it's not good, but you can really tell that I think the creators of that movie just have this fun, like backhanded sort of spin on like kitchen life in France. I mean, I don't know, like I was noticing a lot of things that I just didn't recognize at all, like very clear mechanical decisions in the animation that I had never picked up on, just the over exaggeration of people's like complexity from the humans perspective, but the rats look pretty normal, which I thought was like a very fun, like there's small variation between the rats, but like the humans most definitely look very like just strange. The critic, what's his name?
Egon something?
Yeah, Ego. His last name's Ego.
Yeah.
But it's like his name is like a joke in and of itself when he's introduced. It's like too much ego is like or something like that. His character name, and I was like, wow, I never even noticed that. But yeah, the movie's really fun.
Pixar. Anton Ego,
yeah, a ton of ego, right? Yeah. So, I thought it was really, really cool. Some of it is just like it's interesting about some of those animated films is they try to execute like the explanation at the end, and it's like, oh yeah, like everybody just accepted the fact that he was a rat in the kitchen, and I was like, I don't think it would go down like that, and. There's the touch of realism when they close the restaurant and all that stuff, and the inspector gets out, and yeah, who hasn't seen it, but it's still worth going back and really appreciating the time and effort that went into some of these animated films. Like there's just so much attention to detail in every frame. So
yeah, I genuinely love Ratatouille. It's maybe one of the Pixar movies that I think about the most, just like in everyday life, I guess, because when you're cooking, I always think of the montage scene of them, like her training him how to cook and whatnot, and it's, pull your sleeves in, and it's like, it's a lot of, I don't know, it's a movie that I come back to and think about or reference a lot. And the soundtrack is just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. Other than that, I just a little bit of TV like here and there, but nothing completely out of the ordinary. We have a movie to talk about, but this is Cinema Spectator. We always review great movies of the cinematic canon, or maybe you beg to differ. I'm not the expert. Cameron is, and he's hosting it. You can support our show at patreon.com/ECFS Productions. Throw a couple dollars our way, get access to a commentary track over a film. We've even been experimenting with just sort of a bonus episode that's over a film. Last month we did Empire Strikes Back with my brother, who's been studying scoring films. So we talked about like the power of movie scores and all that. If you want access to that, it's just at the $1 level on Patreon. You can also claim your ability to ask questions on the show and all that good stuff. Get your name read in the credits. If you don't have a few dollars, it's all good. You can give us a rating on iTunes, and that really helps the show grow. Tell friends and family. And I'm done shilling. Let's talk about this movie. I'm excited to do it.
I have one more thing to shill. We have been putting our episodes fully with video on YouTube, and that's at our channel, ECFS Productions, I think.
That's it, yeah. ECFS Productions.
Yeah, so we have been putting it all there. It's been fun to kind of just, put it up on a different platform and in video format. Totally free, go and watch that, support that.
Like, subscribe, all that stuff.
To the
Smash
channel.
that like button.
Hell yeah.
It's right down there. I don't know. We're experimenting with video, and it's not completely ironed out. Honestly, like we're both shooting on webcams right now. So it's new to us in podcasting. We've been audio only for long enough. So give us a little bit of grace if it's not the most visually entertaining thing you've seen. But we're getting there, and we're giving it to you for free to the people.
Also, it's just a podcast too, so I watch a lot of podcasts on YouTube, and most of them are just like blank, or they're just someone's webcam, like you said. So I like it because there's an option there. You can if YouTube is your preferred platform, you can watch it on YouTube. So
there you go. Yeah. And make sure to smash the like. Okay, witness for the prosecution. Here we go. I feel like I'm becoming a Billy Wilder fan. It's not often that I just reveal my cards early on, but I'm excited about this film. I want to spoil this film, so if you don't want it spoiled, we will warn you halfway through. We got to get into the great reveals at the end of this film.
I know, yeah. And it's funny, before you go into that, I guess, did you notice, so when you watched it, you rented it on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so did you notice at the end there was a little thing over the credits? There's like did you get to that part? So it says, the management of this theater suggests that for the greater entertainment of your friends who have not yet seen the picture, you will not divulge to anyone the secret of the ending of Witness for the Prosecution.
I wonder if that's is that still held up as one of the rules? Because I think we're gonna break it.
It's not. But it was like that's what United Artists originally put in the end of this movie when it was shown in theaters, which is super cool. I love that. I feel like I can't think of any right now, but I feel like there have been examples of that. Like more modern examples of that, but that's definitely one of the most famous examples of a theater being like, "Hi, don't spoil this for anybody else. Like, don't tell anybody the secret." So that's just a fun little bit of trivia. But let's get into the movie. Oh, I was gonna say actually before. Now, by the end of this month, you will have watched 6 Billy Wilder movies. He's a pretty prolific director, so he has quite a bit of movies. We're not going to watch all of them, obviously. But you will probably be more well-versed in Billy Wilder movies than, I would say 98% of the population. So how does it feel? I mean, I'll ask you later, but how will it feel to be an expert on Billy Wilder? Because you will.
I don't know. I still feel like I don't have a really big grasp on him. We did a Scorsese month, and I think by the end of it, I was like, I feel like I could hang out with Martin Scorsese and just love being with him. I was I would be totally into what he was making and what kind of his perspective on things were. So far, my interpretation of Wilder is his extreme detail in character. Right?
Yeah.
How much you can tell he has a love for just humanity's quirks, I guess is probably the best way of putting it. And that's about as surface level as I've gotten with it so far. I'm intrigued. I appreciate a perspective like that. I enjoy it. And I think the reason I'm so psyched about this movie is because this film starts with Wilfred just knocking it out of the park with his performance. It is so captivating to watch it from the beginning, and it's hitting all the things that turn me off usually, right? Black and white movie, old, stuff like that. But all it caught me so quick from the beginning with Wilfred's performance, and I'm like, I just got to talk about this movie. I want people to watch it. Like it's great. So you can give a little bit of an intro, but does that sort of answer your question on where I'm falling with Wilder?
I'm gonna ask you again once we've seen all of the movies that we're gonna see. So as you know, he's one of my favorite directors, maybe of all time, and he's someone that I could gush about endlessly. So it'll be exciting to have another person in that company for me. So
you've converted one. Finally.
Yes. Well, Witness for the Prosecution is an interesting movie. It follows a British barrister who's basically like a lawyer in England. It follows a barrister as he defends a client from being charged with the murder of an old woman. And as it goes along, there's various twists and turns. It's an Agatha Christie, an Agatha Christie property. So you know that there's going to be some twists. But really what's important about the movie and what I think is really fun about the movie is Charles Lofton. He plays sort of this grumpy, ill-healthed British barrister who is the funniest character you've ever seen. He is like genuinely... He says things that are would be shocking in a movie today. So like imagine a movie in 1957. He says things that are like genuinely like actual laugh lines. And so he's extremely funny. He has this sort of back and forth banter with his nurse, Miss Plimsoll. Miss Plimsoll is very sincere and very, very much wants him to take his medicine, and he is putting up a fight doing it. The person on trial is Leonard Vole, and you kind of have the feeling that he is just a sincere guy caught off guard by this, this terrible thing that's happened to a friend of his. And throughout the movie, you get this idea that he's kind of been run around by everybody he's been around, so. And then his wife is played by Marlene Dietrich. Marlene Dietrich also played in another movie Billy Wilder directed called A Foreign Affair. She plays sort of it takes place in sort of the late World War II, and she plays sort of like a high up Nazi mistress and also the love interest for the main character, which is very interesting and very scary because she plays I don't know what it is about her, but I find her terrifying just whenever she's on screen. Is there anybody else I'm missing? Just a little overview of sort of the characters and the scenario. I would say it's kind of hard to give a more detailed look into this movie without spoiling it. So, with that being said, let's...
Yeah, I think, I mean, maybe we can dive into some of the supporting cast and their performances, but I totally think what you're saying it just rings true, right? Marlene Dietrich, she is like, just embodies like this evil force in the film, right? Like you just don't trust her. And they even like Wilfred in a portion of the trial talks about how it's like, well, right now, like they don't trust her and they don't like her, but they trust her. Do you know what I mean? Like there's that great line where it's like,
yeah,
they're
like they don't trust her, but they believe her, right?
Right, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
They think that she's telling the truth, but they also don't like her at all because she does seem slimy. I mean, she seems, she even, in her testimony, she seems like she's like he says, a chronic liar,
And in her like first appearances as well, she's already spinning everything you've heard from the beginning in a different direction, right? And she has like this sharp sort of anger or bitterness in her performance, and it's great. Like you're trying to figure her out. She's a little bit of that question mark throughout the film, and she keeps your interest through it all. She's not a character that is obnoxious to watch, more mysterious and maybe frustrating in sort of a like competitive way in a sense, like as a viewer, right? You're like, man, what's the deal with this person? You know, like I want to figure it out. And I think Wilfred being entertaining to watch also embodies a voice for you as an audience member where he really brings it to her. Yeah, what can I say about Wilfred in this film? Like he is just hilarious. Like you're totally right. There's a modern feel to the dialogue of this film despite its age. And I know that's what we mentioned way back when we reviewed Sunset Boulevard, right? Is that there's this timeless flow to the conversation. But Wilfred, like, it almost feels like he's breaking the entire film when he speaks, you know, like his presence is like someone so familiar that you've known, you know, but also like strangely powerful to everyone around him in the film. Like everyone believes his existence. And so I don't know, like it's very hard to nail, but all his bits with him trying to get, you know, whether it's like alcohol or cigarettes when he's not supposed to, or it's just like, it's so entertaining to watch. And he has the right to be like kind of cocky in his demeanor because he is successful. He is clever. And even the nurse towards the end of the film in his performance as whatever the British version of lawyer is, right? She's even rooting for him because he is so exciting to watch defend Leonard Vole, who is quite charismatic, charming, like oppositely to his wife, right? They said what was it? Like they trust him, but they don't believe him, right?
Yeah.
Or, right. So that's like a cool, like kind of what is it, like yin and yang, like between the two characters.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think Vole does a great job as the charged person that needs to be defended, and very sympathetic. And I love how all the characters begin to comment on that as well, including his wife, but the other people around him saying like, oh, you know, like every girl is gonna fall for him. If he had like 10, what was it? Like
that's
10,
what his wife said. Yeah. If the jury was made up of all women, you know, they'd be carrying him out on on their shoulders or whatever.
Yeah. So there's this great dynamic between very strong, round characters in the middle of this trial, and the supporting cast is there to almost eat popcorn and enjoy the experience while also serving their role. Like there are small interactions with the inspector, and you get like this brief history between Wilfred and the inspector, and how Wilfred's like, I always trust your non-biased remarks throughout the case, and I can work around that as like someone who's defending someone else. Or Janet something on this document. Of course, her name's not on there fully, but the maid lady that has the hearing issue, Mackenzie. She's hilarious.
She's so funny. Yeah. And she's like the old Scottish maid who's really hates she hates Leonard Vole, but from what you can see, it has something like she's hated. It was like an instinct, you know. She's hated him from the very beginning. First time that she brought that he brought that egg beater to her kitchen. You know, the first time she was not a fan, and that's something that you know Wilfred comments on, and he makes a good case on that. You know, hey, well, maybe you don't like him because you're upset that he was able to take the money, you know, and you got cut out of the will essentially. So
So one of the main points of which you find out pretty early on is that Leonard Vole is accused of murder of this, you know, Miss Plimsoll, and she happens to be wealthy, and Vole met her pretty early, or pretty close to her death, right?
No, sorry, it's French. Emily French.
Emily French, sorry.
Yeah.
Not
Plimsoll
the nurse.
is the nurse, yeah.
There's a rich lady named Emily French that Leonard Vole becomes friends with on the street, and of course, the rich lady's maid doesn't like him, and then suddenly Emily French is killed, murdered, but all of her will is signed to this random guy, Leonard Vole, right? Or a large majority of it. Some of it was supposed to go to the maid, and of course, the police are like, okay, random guy, barely knows her. Suddenly, all the will goes to this one guy, like he must be guilty, and that's where the entire court case and the conflict comes together. It's a good premise. It's a really good premise, and I think it's cool that it's written by someone that most people can recognize some of her work with Murder on the Orient Express and things like that. So, yeah, it's set up well. John Williams, which I thought was so funny that he's an actor. Basically, Wilfred's partner or the other lawyer friend that was supposed to work with him, he serves as a great character to sort of provide a different perspective to Wilfred's defense, and there's a lot of comical elements with betting on cigars and things like that with him. Like, just all around, like, all the characters are very fun to watch, and it just adds to this storyline that is engaging because you want to know what happens, but you're also having so much fun watching the characters.
Yeah.
All in all. So I do want to get into spoilers. Unless you have anything else to say, Cameron, we can dive into them. But any final regards? Should we give our watch recommendation? Obviously, I think you know where I'm landing on it. But before we spoil the movie, I mean, the credits say don't spoil it. So we're telling you guys.
Well, I would say just before we do this, there's a couple things that we should point out in terms of what makes this a quintessential Wilder movie, what makes this sort of classic in his style. I would say, first and foremost is the dialogue, which is so snappy, so witty. It's got tons of double entendre, tons of humor. And everything kind of means a little bit more than what it means on the surface, right? So he's really well known for making his characters like that, where what they say is not really what you would say in that situation, or it's a little bit heightened from reality. The dialogue is very very quick and witty, which isn't real life. It's not that's not how it would happen in real life, but it very much makes for an entertaining drama, and so, like, if the premise sounds very simple, which maybe it is, sure. Same with the last movie, honestly. Same with Double Indemnity, where the premise is pretty simple, but really what hooks you and keeps you engaged is the dialogue, is the characters, and specifically, I think how quick and how witty everything is. There's this isn't even one of his comedies. It's it's pretty much played as a straight mystery crime drama, but there's several jokes per minute in this movie, and it's shocking how he does that. And I think we'll see a little bit more in the future once we go towards his comedies. He always has he's always kind of funny. He always has some jokes in his movies, but really later in his career, when he started working with I.A.L. Diamond, that's when he started to make just straight comedies that were genuinely funny. And he's not there yet. He's going to make a movie in 2 years after this. That's maybe considered the greatest comedy of all time. So, he's still in the phase of making straight dramas. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about Ace in the Hole, why I thought it was an interesting point in his career, is because that's a movie that did really, really poorly, actually. It's remembered as one of his best, and it is. But it's a movie that flopped commercially and critically. People didn't like it. And that kind of left him a sour taste in Hollywood. He had 3 rises and falls basically in his career. It was Double Indemnity all the way up to Sunset Boulevard. And then he makes Ace in the Hole, and it tanks his career for a little bit, a couple years. and then he makes this movie, and it blows up again, and then he makes 4 or 5 more movies, and after that, basically in the mid 60s, he's persona non grata. They won't hire him basically, and he makes one more movie after that. So, he's an interesting character in that he was kind of an outsider in Hollywood. He was kind of, for being known for making like some of the greatest classic Hollywood movies of all time, he was someone who was not really well liked in the Hollywood machine. So that's just to give you context on where this is in his career. This is him blowing up again after a big time period where he was a little bit shunned in Hollywood.
Are we still planning to watch Ace in the Hole?
I'll put it on the vote,
because it's curious when you're talking about sort of the audience reaction. I'm not like, I mean, it's funny that you say like I'm going to become a Wilder expert, right? But I don't have like a appreciation for diving into these things until I'm really, breadcrumb fed each individual piece, and that's because of you, Cameron. You're a great guru in it all, right? But I definitely feel that energy because, sure, Double Indemnity, it didn't blow me away, but I thought it was good. Sunset Boulevard, I really enjoyed. Like, I really liked it. And this movie, I feel like that. I mean, I didn't know anybody cared about this movie at all. I just watched it. I was like, I love it. Like, I love it, right?
Yeah.
And so a part of me, I guess, is a little bummed about Ace in the Hole because it would be interesting if I watched it and I was like, I mean, maybe I'd like it too. I don't know.
I think you would. Yeah, I think you would. It's his most. So Sunset Boulevard also has a very dark tone, very dark point of view. It's a pretty cynical movie. I would say Ace in the Hole is like his most cynical movie for sure.
Oh, okay.
It's very, it follows a journalist, and it's very much about how he hates and distrusts journalists, essentially. And that's one of the reasons why it was panned, as you can maybe tell. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, that's interesting context, and I can understand why general audiences would enjoy this one. Like, it's a roller coaster for sure.
It is.
I don't want to spoil this movie for you. I mean, the plot in and of itself is simple. It is so entertaining to watch these characters have big reveal moments, especially towards the latter half of the film. Like, it's worth it to watch it blind like I did. That's all I'll say. Like, most of the time, I would comment and say, like, you can watch this movie, spoilers don't matter. Like, we say that a lot because we watch old movies on this podcast, right? But this one, just stop this here. You can come back to it. You could try the YouTube version of the podcast at 33 minutes or whatever you're at, right? But give it a chance, Cameron,
Definitely.
Are we going to go into spoilers? Are we going to just give them a chance to dip out now?
Yeah, please, if you haven't seen it, please see it. It's free on Pluto TV with ads.
Oh.
I didn't watch it
Why
there because
did I rent it?
Because it has ads, and that's annoying. So,
Cameron, when are you gonna give me some of that Patreon cash so I can, like, comp some of these rentals, man? Every week you're kicking me with $4, bro.
This month in particular is hard because a lot of his movies aren't streaming. So,
it's too much quality. No, I mean, come on, Amazon. It was great watching it on Amazon. So
yeah.
All right, that's your last moment for spoilers. What an ending!
What an ending!
It's like when Michael Scott says, "Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap." From the dinner party episode,
right? Yeah,
but it's just flip flop, like, whoa, what happened at the end? And I love that they're like, it's over, but is it? But is it? Like, there's like
yeah.
You feel a settling, and then Wilfred has that comment where he's like, I'm not satisfied with it. Like, I'm not, there's something still off. It's tied up too cleanly. And
he's got that feeling. He's like the insurance man in in Double Indemnity. You know, he's got that little feeling in him.
Yeah, and I can see sort of major character pillars in Wilfred that also, like, in Double Indemnity, there's the inspector guy. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The inspector guy that you really root for, that's the good guy, but he's the antagonist, right? Like, Wilfred has some of those, like, just noble elements in him, and it's just amplified, cranked to 11 with character around it, like, just, like, gleaming with life. I don't mean to go on and on Wilfred, but, like, there was a moment in this film where he's, like, really having a hard time, like, physically with his health in defense, and he says this line despite his, like, old bitterness, where he's like, I will defend this guy. His life matters more than mine. Do you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, whoa, like, this guy isn't just a angry, unhealthy guy. Like, no, he's a really noble person. And I think the reveals are almost heartbreaking for him, because you find out, of course, that Leonard Vole did kill Emily French, right?
Yeah.
Which is, you're like, what? Like, I was totally charmed by him, you know? I didn't see, like, I could have seen the twist where it was like Leonard Vole did it, right? Like, I could have seen that coming, right? What I didn't understand, or what really blew me away, was his wife coming back and saying, I am the greatest actress. And you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, that was the moment that I was like, that's a better twist than finding out that he actually did it, right? Because it's 50-50, right? You could be like, well, he either did or didn't. Like, nothing can surprise me in this old movie. But they still go as far as to say, like, no, we can shock you, you know? Or that the moment where it's like, or that girl that's up in the crowd watching the court case was the girl from the hotel booking thing.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, they're giving her a little bit too much camera time. Like, when is she going to come into this? Right. Like, and then she runs up to Leonard, and then the drama. I love Wilfred's final lines where he's like, that wasn't a murder, that was an execution.
I
like,
know.
That is such a great moment. In the conclusion, but I love the ending, and there's a, I guess, happy old movie charm to it, where he's like, well, on to the next case, but you appreciate his care for, like, it just goes to say how good the characters are rounded out, because it's like, you just want to see Wilfred defend the wife afterwards, you know? Like, you want more of the characters, and there's not a lot of movies that I'm like clamoring for a sequel with, you know, especially that are like great, you know. Most of the time I'm like, well, you know, that was good, and it doesn't need to be milked, but it was almost the seeping quality that, like, really drew me to it. Now, actually, I did forget to mention earlier that I was watching some Marvel movies, because I'm a casual, but one of the things that I love about Marvel films is their attention, or like powerhouse of, like, how some of these characters are like they're bigger than the simple plots and the structure of the movies. Like, you know, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man is just electric on screen. And I was talking to my brother about it too, because we're watching some of this, like, WandaVision stuff, but it's like, you just want more of Iron Man, even if he's been in too many movies. Like, you just love him. You just love him. Like, I ended up watching the beginning of Iron Man recently, and just like that the beginning scenes where it's like, I just want peace, baby, you know, like, and he like does the rockets, and I'm like, it's just such a great character, you know. He is fantastic. Wilfred is a great character. like, I love him. And all the reveal and the drama just continues to amplify who he is and how great he is. Like, I just blown away by it. Cameron, what do you think of the conclusion of this film?
Yeah,
what was your
totally.
take?
I agree. You know, with a lot of these movies, or a lot of these stories that center around, you know, murder and didn't he, you know, that kind of thing. Like, like you said, the conclusion is kind of meh for me. Usually, it's like okay, you see the evidence stacking up, and then if he did it, then fine, that he did it, and if he didn't do it, then that's also fine. And usually, a lot of times movies won't play it straight. You know what I mean? And and there's a lot of not funny business necessarily, but there's a lot of ways of getting around this sort of straightforward,
But it was one of the Infinity Stones that actually let Leonard Vole get away.
No. There's a way of sort of playing to your heartstrings or playing to your preconceived notions about things. And a lot of times movies will lean into that with your perspective. I would say a really good example of this, maybe a different example, I guess, is something like Gone Girl. Have you seen Gone Girl?
Yeah. No, I really enjoy that film too.
Yeah, well, it's spoilers for that, I guess. But, halfway through you realize like, oh, he's just being framed the whole time. So you get this story in the first half where it's like, oh, did he do this? Oh, now it's like seeming like he might have. Oh, now it's like kind of weird, like what's going on? And then there's the big boom in the middle where it's like the twist doesn't happen at the end. The twist is what shows you the rest of the movie, what unlocks the rest of the movie. And this movie is interesting because you get this feeling that something's not right immediately from the wife. You get the feeling that she's doing something, she's suspicious, she has something, up her sleeve. And kind of the hook is you really want to know what it is. And even in the end, when he gets off, and there's sort of this whole conclusive thing about her letters, and she's apparently been corresponding about this plot to lie in court and whatever, and you get there and you're like, okay, but I kind of want to see her tell the story. I kind of want to see her explain what the idea was.
But
right?
Okay, but come on, like the moment with the letters was so good.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Like when Wilfred is holding up the wrong, she's like, I never would have written that, because it's like, dang, like that. I was like, that was a convincing moment, like that was powerful, right?
Totally. But still, I mean, as Wilfred says, he's not satisfied either. He still has something bugging him. There's something that's still not right. And I think you feel that as an audience member too, because you're maybe so in tune with the characters, right? You have this sense that something's a little amiss still. Something's still wrong. And also, the other fact of the matter is you don't know who did it too. That always leaves you a little bit curious in a movie like this, where it's like, clearly there's going to be, they're not going to leave her murder inconclusive. You know what I mean? So like, unless they're going to introduce a new character, or unless maybe it was Dietrich all along, maybe it was the wife all along. And there is something tense about going into those final moments. You have the moment where everybody clears out of the courtroom and she gets taken back in, and you're like, okay, this is the big reveal,
right? Right.
And it's totally different from what you expect. It's totally you expect her to explain like, yes, I tried to set up my husband because he abused me or something like that.
Yep.
Like there's and even being someone who enjoys Billy Wilder movies, there's plenty of those characters in his movies. Plenty of characters who are like totally the femme fatale, totally the maybe the sinister woman. He has pretty much invented that trope in a lot of ways. And in this movie, you get something that is much more endearing when she explains what she did. You're like, you're like, wow, like she actually genuinely loves this person and is willing to do anything for him. And the bigger reveal is that he comes down and he totally doesn't care about her, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all along, you know, she was the best actress, but he was the best actor, you know?
Right. Right. And his it makes you question all those moments like in the court case where he's like, no, like you stop saying a lie, you know, like it really changes the past interactions and has you thinking back on it. And from the moment you see him smiling, coming up like the back, like there's like those weird steps like in the accuser booth, right?
Yeah, he's in like a box,
or in the accused
basically.
box. Yeah,
they do it differently. That's a British thing.
yeah, it's very interesting, I guess, visually, right? But he comes up with that grin, you know, at the end, and you're just like, whoa, like he is not just charming, but like an evil charming, you know?
Yeah.
And he also has like this very brief line when he's leaving earlier that he says like, let's get out of here before they change their mind. And you're kind of like, is that the charming side of him, or like,
yeah,
like,
it
who
feels
says
weird.
that?
It feels
like, who
weird,
says
doesn't
that?
it?
You know, like who says that if they aren't guilty? Like, I don't know. Like it was off putting in that moment. But yeah, like so good at the end with the reveals and all that. Cameron, I don't mean to like cut you off with my like me gleaming and all that, but
No. Honestly, I don't know what else to say other than it's brilliantly executed. You know, obviously there's twists along the way. There's certainly, you know, I would say in these movies it's important to have like little twists or little hooks that kind of draw you back into the story or draw you further into the story. You know, I think one of them is when they find out that she was married to someone else.
right.
You know, and then another one is when they call her on the witness stand.
Yeah.
Because they had decided, or the defense decided that they weren't going to bring her up, and the prosecution decided that they could because she wasn't actually married to him.
Right.
Which is a brilliant that's like a little mini twist in some ways. And so there are those moments along the way, but I think the cascading effect of finding out that he did it, finding out that she was playing a part all along, and then finding out that he was also just playing a part and doesn't even care about her, you know, like like there's an amazing sort of triple threat of twists at the end. So
I really think that my closing thoughts and consideration around this film comes all back to Wilder in character, because it's really began to have me reflect on what I love in film. And I had a conversation with Juzo a few episodes back, and I know I touched on it in the episodes leading up to this one, but like sort of that process as an audience member that like really hooks you. And maybe this is a subjective element, but I almost feel like it's an objective flex if you can pull it off like Wilder does. Like just the power of just like excellent characters. And it's more than just like having good writing or witty comments, because every Marvel character has a witty comment. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
But not every character is Iron Man, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't really want to see more of Captain Marvel. You're fine without her. You know, like she has a witty comment that does not make a good character, you know?
Right.
Like it's this perfect blending of the actor or actress diving headfirst into the shoes of that character, all the lines hitting in a moment of like believability. It's still kind of turned up to 11 because nobody actually talks like that, but it's grounded in the fact of all the other supporting casts like really embracing kind of the extreme delivery of all these things, like everybody is in it. They're on the level, you know? And I don't know why I'm bringing this up with Marvel films, but I've been watching them recently where it's like you have all these big actors and actresses, they're playing off witty comments, but they don't all stand alone. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't stand like some, you know, they got to have some like supporting roles, right? And it's okay to have like good supporting characters, you know? I think Paul Rudd as Ant-Man is a great supporting character. Like you'd like to see more of him. Even Spider-Man, right? I know I'm just bringing this to like more of a modern context, right? I think where modern movies fail is like it's true, but some characters just don't have the guns, you know? They just don't have it. And the reason I wanted to bring up this conversation about like the hook is Wilfred took me off guard from the beginning.
Yeah.
Wilfred from the beginning had me saying, I'm willing to sit here for another 30 minutes and find something more that I like, you know? But it took 30 seconds for me to say that. And there's a lot of old movies that we watch on this show that I don't have that fast of a hook in me. Do you know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
Even Sunset Boulevard was slower than this, right? I think it took me to about like 5-10 minutes in. The intro is kind of cool with the pool and all that, but once you really start seeing the weird house and the monkey and stuff, that's where I was like, okay,
yeah,
like I can get into this, right? But yeah, man, I'm a big Wilfred guy. Like I don't know how much more I can hit on it, but it's like characters are, I think, easily neglected for these large plot devices or weird set pieces in film, but I think it's just such a heart in movies, and to add on to that, like it has a power to catch audience members in almost an objective fashion, in my view, right? Like if you can have a great character, almost everything else doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like
in some ways, yeah.
In some ways. So I mean,
I think really what you're hitting on, and I don't know, I do want to, we should continue talking about what makes Wilfred such a good character, because I think it's really, like you said, a combination of everything, right? There's the, of course he's witty, and of course he has amazing dialogue. You know, there's many laugh out loud moments with Wilfred, you know, totally being abusive to his nurse, and you know, and her taking it, you know, and there's like the back and forth between them that is hilarious, obviously. But he's not just witty comments. You know, he's not just defined by the fact that he makes a joke every now and then. He has, it's like there's his dialogue, which is incredible. There's also he has, you know, a lot of older movies will have like a character is defined by one action, or a character is defined by sort of one thing that they do over and over again to get you sort of in the mind of that, you know, that character. Even in Double Indemnity, it's the lighter, or it's the match. You know, he strikes a match with his thumb and whatnot, and that's kind of played off of in the experience of those two characters in the movie. And in this movie, he has like 4 or 5 things that he does consistently that is both charming and hilarious, and also like it gets you in the mind of that character. You know, it gets you into the headspace of the character. One obviously is his trick with his monocle, you know, that
right.
he does consistently throughout, to sort of cross-examine the people he's talking to. Another one is his constant need for cigars, and then so those are the 2 things, right? There's dialogue, there's these sort of quirks or these character actions that are consistently applied, that are sort of brought back to over and over again. And then where I think Wilder goes above and beyond is he uses both of those things to point the character in a direction of the story, right? He uses both the dialogue, obviously in the courtroom sequences, he uses the dialogue a lot to sort of flourish his point and make it punchier, make it stronger. And he's really good at that. And then one thing that I noticed that really like caught me off guard and that struck me as something incredible in the script is at the end, you remember he sits down and he's sort of contemplating what he's done and this is the end. This is like when the jury hasn't rolled in yet, before he gets the letters, right? He's sort of contemplating like, I don't know if this is going to go through. I don't know if we've hit it yet. It's basically a closed case at this point. They're going to convict him. And he sits down and they offer him a cigar and he says, no, thanks, And so like, there's that moment of, he is, there's a reversal in his actions, or there's a reversal in his sort of character quirks that lead you into the story, lean you into where the story is going. And then obviously once he gets that phone call and he's like, I'm too old and in too poor health to go gallivanting on a goose chase. And then he gets right up and he says, "It's cigar," and they walk outside, and it's amazing. There's that sort of. So that is what I would say is the trifecta of finding a great Billy Wilder character. It's you have the dialogue that is poignant and that is punchy. You have sort of the recurring character quirks, or the recurring actions that a character takes. And then both of those are pointed towards servicing the story, servicing that feeling of driving the movie forward, driving the characters forward. And yeah, I think we're gonna just see more and more of that too. So
I think one of the aspects of Wilfred that resonated with me, and I think you probably touched on it already, but he has quirks, but it doesn't define like his, I guess, overall goal. And it's almost like because I've been trying to think of a term that I want to label it as. I'm not a character writer, right? But I almost consider it like a tragic honor, where it's like no matter the cost, right? No matter his own health, his own desire for a cigarette, right? His own, like, it doesn't matter. Like, he is sworn to this calling in his life to do this thing, right? And at the end, you realize it's not even about the money. It really does come down to a level of justice too, because his final statements is that he wants to defend Christine Vole, right? Like that he's just like, if she's not guilty, I will defend her like to the best of my ability. Like he is driven by truth, I guess, truth and justice, right? In a crippling manner, right? Like he's falling apart in that. And I just think that's it resonates with me personally, because I think a lot of people are like drawn by these certain things that they think are good, right? That are like non-negotiables that need to be completed right in the moment, and it drives them to the edge. I just think there's so much complexity that you can pull apart from that, in the fact that he poured himself into something that was wrong, right? And in a way like twisted, but he gets up back again and still like swears to try again and do it. Like it's a curse, but it's like there's a noble side to it, Yeah,
absolutely. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to hit on?
This movie's for everyone. That's my rating. Just go watch it, man. Like,
it's awesome.
If hopefully you watched it before the spoilers. Tim Smith probably listened to the spoilers and now he's gonna watch it. One of our Patreons. Shout out to you, Tim. Yeah. So even if you watch the spoilers, like the characters will. The movie, like that was the other thing. Is like this movie didn't feel long to me. Not at all. Like it was very, very entertaining to watch all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just pleasantly surprised. Probably my favorite film by Wilder that I've seen. Even
how about in the ranking of the movies we've watched?
Oh boy, this is my problem is that we've watched so many at this point. It's like, what are the ones I really enjoyed? You know,
you really loved the Great Dictator.
Yes, and I think the Great Dictator has a visual popcorn element that comes in with this strong, like, intellectual powerhouse of a speech at the end. Like that movie is like, we're gonna get you with the dumbest humor from the very beginning and take you on a journey to like absolute seriousness. I think that's like, to me, I was like, oh, it's a masterpiece, you know, like such incredible execution. Like this movie, it is more subtle than that. I think it's like, okay, we have a little bit of goofy, quirky stuff. We're gonna make sure you're bought into the characters. You want to know what happens. We'll take you on a ride. It is almost popcorn, but there's this heavy attention on excellent character writing, just great performances. Like it's quality through and through, and there's no black and white old looking movie thing that can block that from its greatness, you know? Like as much as I'm biased against that, like it cannot hide its excellence. And I'm shocked by it. Like I was like, wow, dude, Cameron, like what a great choice. And then on Saturday when we're supposed to record, you're like, I haven't even seen it. I'm like, well, you should, you know, like it's great. So watch this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's serendipitous, I would say, because I really, really enjoyed it. It was one that I didn't watch in class. You know, I don't know, that class was funny for me because it was really one of my favorite subjects, and it also was kind of an extremely frustrating experience at some points, because we would talk about Wilder a lot, but it always was like couched in like other surrounding things, I guess. Like, you know, I wanted more of the straight like movie analysis in that class. And yeah, so that's kind of the one thing I was missing from it. But genuinely, it made me interested and in love with this filmmaker who, you know, I had seen Sunset Boulevard, but that was it. You know, before that, I was totally not well versed. And it's funny because, as I mentioned before, I think he's really underrated, I would say. If you list the movies that are like genuine classics of his, he has like such a track record. Like, you know, it's like he's I don't know if he's like Hitchcock level, but he basically is, you know, in the amount of movies that he's made that have become genuine classics. He's up there with almost anybody. And he's someone who is never in the conversation for sort of, you know, best directors, or never in the conversation for, you know, in the golden age of Hollywood, you know, this classic director. And I think that's a shame, because I want him to be celebrated more. I think he deserves it. He got shafted during his lifetime, and I feel like he's continued to be, you know, underrated. So,
hey, I'm being convinced right now, Cameron. Like I was nervous going into this month because Sunset Boulevard, like it has the name, it has like, I was like, that one I know. And I've seen now, even though I hadn't have seen it like when we started this show. But yeah, I don't know if I was like, is there anything else that I'm gonna know? Especially after Double Indemnity, which was not bad. I was like, okay, it was just all right. You know, like it was just fine. It was good. But I'm in it, guys. You got to give Wilder a chance. That's all I'm gonna say. You got to give him a chance. And this one, watch this movie. Just watch it. That's how I feel it.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I just want to touch on Wilder as we close up here, I keep hitting it over and over again, like the character thing. We usually do shot of the film in this show, and I literally cannot think of a shot in this movie that is like visually exciting. It has a very flat look, I think, and it's because the characters are centerpieces, right? For the movie. And in my mind, you compare some other great filmmakers to Wilder, like they're known for those shots, they're known for those like glorious like frames that could be hung in paintings, right? And this movie doesn't need that, and it stands so strong without it. And I think my worry when you mentioned that was I was like, oh no, but I can't think of a like great framing. And then I thought of Sunset Boulevard, which is just iconic looking. Like there are just some incredible looking shots in that. The pool will forever haunt me, that empty pool at her house, right?
Yeah.
And the monkey funeral casket and all that stuff. The smoke room. There's so many. I've seen that movie once. I'm already telling you a bunch of things that are visual. It's like he's been there, he's done that. He doesn't need to do it. Like the characters are where he like is strong. Right?
Definitely. And I would say he's more of, in some ways, more of a writer than a director. And I wouldn't say that's necessarily true, but visually, I think you're right that he has kind of an understated style in a lot of ways, which is totally fine. A lot of directors have an understated style, but what makes him such an effective director is the way that he gets his actors to portray the characters. He is an actor's director through and through, 100%. He's someone who draws out an incredible performance out of basically thin air, essentially. Like, we'll see when we get to our next movie. He had a lot of struggles with the lead actress, and it's funny considering that it's her greatest role ever. And it was something that was like, it literally pained him to do, essentially. But he was able to draw it out. And, he's known for working with, similar, actresses. He's known for working with sort of similar characters and similar actors in a lot of ways. This is a good one because it stands out, because Wilfred is such a different character for him, I would say, in a lot of ways. But at the same time, he brings, like, everybody's performance is their A game. There's I don't know. I think as much as I love the look of, a lot of his movies, it's not really what's most important. And yeah, I think this is definitely one where that's the case. So,
yeah.
It's funny. Apparently Alfred Hitchcock has said that he really liked this movie, first of all, but he said that people always thought it was a Hitchcock movie.
Wow.
Which is really, what a compliment. I mean,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I can see there's a little bit of that like messed up twist, especially with the execution at the end, which I'm like, woo, the action, I'm in it. Stab, it was kind of a weird stabbing, but it got
I know
the
he
job
just
done.
dies immediately.
Yeah.
It's well, yeah, never mind.
What do you mean?
I was gonna spoil something else, but
okay, don't do it. Don't do it.
Not worth.
All right. Well, if you're excited to continue to participate with us in Wilder Month, we post every Monday, and you can now watch it as well, as Cameron said. Any closing thoughts, Cameron? Do you want to tell the audience what they can watch next week with us?
Yes. So we are going to be doing our commentary track on Some Like It Hot, which is considered one of the funniest movies of all time. It's also, I wouldn't say funniest movies. It's considered one of the greatest comedies of all time, I will say.
Well, that's coming from the guy that laughed at the word bazinga. So, I don't know if you can take this expert seriously.
I laughed because it was so unexpected for you. I just didn't. I had never pictured those words coming out of your mouth.
Well, we'll see if there's even a show next Monday now. If Cameron ever texts me back ever again.
No. I'm really excited to watch it with you because it will, we'll be together. It's really just an over the top movie. It's ridiculous. And it's the first of his movies that will show his less serious side, which I think will be a good sort of switch up in this month. So for sure.
Well, awesome. All right. Till next week, guys. We will see you then, and keep watching some great Wilder films. Cinema Spectator is an ECFS Productions podcast, executive produced by Darren O'Neill. If you want your name read in the credits of the show, you can check us out at patreon.com/ECFS Productions to achieve this status. Thank you, Darren, for the support, and for the rest of you, we appreciate your support as well. Have a good one.